Good evening to everyone out there in the world, or Australia. Anxious here. As mentioned previously, I'm the OCD guy, um, and I'll probably talk really quick. And it's not because I take anything. I am completely drug free. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't gamble. Nothing. Um, but my brain goes in so many different directions when I'm trying to actually talk about any topic, and so it's really important for me to cut to the crunch. Just to make it quite clear, I never set out to be a social influencer. I'd rather be the guy that just is Joe Blogs, just does his thing. I don't want to be anyone, I just want to be me. But I want to talk about three topics really quickly. First of all, this housing crisis in Australia. Second of all, corporate greed. And third of all, the guys that are basically in charge of three major countries in the world. So, first of all, I'm going to cut to the crunch. Housing crisis in Australia. I live a very simple lifestyle. I'm a minimalist. I don't need much at all. I just don't care about money. Just enough to pay the bills. That's it. I don't care. I drive a new car, so what? Not because I want to be in a brand new car. I drive a new car because it doesn't break down. I'm a battler, so what? I'm happy being a battler. But this housing crisis is an absolute joke. Why have we got a housing crisis? Well, we've got a housing crisis from what I've researched, because I do a lot of research. I don't watch anything but documentaries and podcasts. But we've got a housing crisis because of immigration. Now, you talk to any economist, and I'm a big one for following economists because they really know what they're talking about. I've got all the time in the world for economists in Australia because they will talk the real deal. Now, according to politicians, the way you fix the housing crisis is to build enough houses. Well, I'm sorry, but I did really badly at school, especially in mathematics. I had learning difficulties galore, but you don't actually have to be a mathematician to realise that if you can't house enough people in Australia, why would you bring in more immigrants? I'm not racist. I've got friends of all different races, but their idea to fix the housing problem in Australia is to build more houses. Any economist in Australia will tell you the only way to beat the housing crisis is to cut immigration. Now, I'm not highly educated. If anything, I educate myself because I don't watch crap. I just watch documentaries and podcasts. I've known nothing about politics for years, and then all of a sudden, in a year or so, I've learned everything I can about politics and economics. So someone at the top can't get their maths right. I mean, if you can't house the people you've got in your own country, and you can't build the houses fast enough, why would you keep bringing in more immigrants? It makes no sense. But these guys earning megabucks at the top decide that we'll just keep building houses and that'll fix the problem. There was a famous lady, and I'm not going to mention her name, but she basically came out and said, it's really sad, but we're never going to fix the housing problem in our generation. Now, that is horrendous. It's horrendous because I've got a son. It's horrendous because I've got nephews and nieces, and if they go out to buy a house, rent a house right now, they don't have a hope in hell. A masonette is about $450 a week. Now, I live in a humble abode. I'm not going to say what it is, but it cost me next to nothing because I got lucky. I got very, very lucky. I travel a long way to the metro every day, but I pay basically a couple $100 a week and spend more in just getting to the metro to do my work. Now, ultimately, whatever happens in my life, I'm not going to blame it on the economy. The buck stops with me. Ultimately, whatever happens in the economy, whatever they're charging at the supermarket, ultimately, the buck stops with me. That's my personal opinion. But you've got these guys at the top that think, we'll build more houses and it will fix the housing problem. It's a load of crap. Any economist will tell you the only way to fix the housing problem in Australia is to cut immigration. Anyway, let's leave that alone and move on to the next one. Corporate greed. I do not for a minute understand corporate greed. I mean, for instance, I said to some guys a while ago, and let's just talk about politicians and corporations. When it comes to politicians, whenever you see them with a cheesy, smarmy smile on their face, straight away it says to me, no credibility, no integrity. There's a couple of women out there, I'm not going to mention their names, but whenever you see them, they've got a straight face, they don't have a cheesy smile on their face, because they're the real deal and they know what they're talking about. Any other politician I've seen with just a cheesy smile on his face is basically making mega bucks on the taxpayers' dollars, by the way. And, you know, I've often made a joke and said, you know, if you ever want to stand in a room all day and basically talk crap, achieve nothing, squander the taxpayers' dollars, get paid a huge salary, and then when you leave that and you've failed completely, you'll get rewarded for the rest of your life with massive super, just become a politician. Because we are getting nowhere with the politicians that we have. They're a complete failure. I'm sorry, but they're a complete failure. Now, moving past that, I'll step onto one just quick topic. As a mental health sufferer, I run a business, and that's fine. But if I actually go to get any assistance from the government when I pay all my taxes and everything else, I basically have to be a complete deadbeat at home, and then I'll get everything. Or if I can prove that I work full time, I'll get nothing. So I don't qualify for NDIS, and I'm not really after NDIS. I don't qualify for the pension. I don't really want the pension, but just an extra 50 or 100 bucks a week would be really handy when the industry I'm in has fallen by 50%. So I basically go out and work, say, 16 hours a day on average. Short day might be 12. And I don't really want a handout, but just a little bit of assistance. But the system's designed so that basically, if you've got mental health problems, you either have to be a complete, and I've got to be careful, I'm only referring to myself, but I have to basically prove that I can do nothing and I'll sit at home and achieve nothing and just basically get to the end of my life and look back and think, well, I achieved nothing, but I got paid for by the government. Or and I'm only referring to myself, or I go out there and bust my balls and basically make as much money as I can, which is never enough to properly survive. I'm just basically chipping away. But there is no assistance for people like me. So what am I saying? You either do nothing and get everything thrown at you and have to qualify for NDIS or, you know, the pension, which neither of which I'm after, because I want to get somewhere in life and actually do it myself. Or if you are working full-time and doing all the hours under the sun, I don't qualify for anything. I have a son, but he's not living with me, so therefore I don't get any family part A and B. So anyway, look, at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. I'm not about that. I'm just putting out the fact that there is no in-between. Now, also, the final. This idea of just corporations and wanting more and more and more. Like, how rich do you have to be? I mean, you've got this insane situation where basically you'll get reamed by corporations with fees and charges, and they know everyone's doing it tough. But what they'll do is they'll hit you with late fees. And, you know, the battler, lo and behold, he's the one that pays more interest. If you're a risk, what do? You charge the battler more interest. Work that one out. And then what they do is they nip at your ankles with endless phone calls. They'll offer you hardship. So what they do is they hit you with horrendous fees and charges, late fees, rah. They chip at your ankles like a bloody chihuahua, and they'll harass you, and they can get away with it legally somehow on this planet. I don't know how, but they can. They can legally just get away with it. They can legally just get away like loan sharks and charge you all the interest and charges in the world, and nothing will be done about it. So then what they do is, the house always wins, so they offer you assistance, and then when you need to renegotiate or refinance, then they'll knock you back, but then they'll smash you with more fees and charges, and then they'll ring you back, and half the time you won't be able to understand what they're saying because they're from a certain country that I'm not going to mention, and so then they offer you hardship. So we'll ream you with fees and charges, but it's okay, we'll offer you hardship. That will then destroy your credit rating completely. I do not understand corporate greed whatsoever. How rich do you have to be? Because when you actually have hundreds of millions of dollars, and I don't know what you're going to do with it, there is nothing left to live for. So why do you have to have endless amounts of corporate greed? I mean, seriously, like, when is enough money enough? I mean, my doctor said to me years ago, you can either earn more to keep up with the Joneses, or you can just get used to living on less. I'd rather live on less. But my point is, I can't comprehend the world anymore. I don't try and comprehend the world anymore. It's making no sense. And the next time you see a politician with a smile on your face, he probably has no credibility. Thank you very much. Have a great night.